Is modern technology really making life easier or more difficult? Recently, I had a friend who got stuck in a parking garage because as he tried to exit, he realized he hadn't downloaded some app after an afternoon of shopping, and it was impossible to get out of the garage without that in his phone. I had some friends who had trouble getting into a concert because the tickets that they had purchased online that were sent to their phone in an email, they couldn't open when they got to the venue because the provided service at the venue was really sketchy. I have a fellow investor who just at the moment as he was logging in to cash out on a high on one of his investments, the server crashed. Of course it did. Leaving him in the lurch. And of course, when everything came back up, he had missed his opportunity to get out. And I have another buddy who literally couldn't leave one day because his Tesla car wouldn't start because his phone had died. So this led me to ask the question, is all of this technology just adding a layer of inconvenience that is actually making our lives better or harder? Let's talk about it. Everything I just discussed is kind of the tip of the iceberg. And let's remember that it's an iceberg that took down the Titanic, right? But is technology going to be the iceberg that is going to take down humanity? When I was a kid growing up in the, streets of Boston, life was very different. Cable TV, first of all, worked awesome. Oh, and it was cheap. Phone service was another thing that was outstanding, and I only had to answer it when I was home. Imagine that. We only had 4 food groups, and they had way less preservatives in them, and food was mostly healthier in general. And anytime I went to a place of business to interact, it was usually with a human who was happy to be there and took pride in doing their job and took this amazing form of exchange called U.S. currency. Cash. Amazing. Fast forward to today where phone service is sketchy as hell, but at least when it does work, I'm constantly inundated by sales calls from people I don't know that bought my information because some data broker stole it. Coffee shops have kiosks making ordering my coffee neither fun nor accurate. Oh, and they want to take plastic only. And there's 5 to 7 food groups, depending on which health organization you ask. Our longevity is actually proven to be going down the tubes. For the first time since the Industrial Revolution, people actually aren't living as long thanks to all of the new diseases that are popping up. Add to that when I do watch cable TV, that what I usually get is this little icon just spinning over and over for about a minute and a half. And finally, I get a message that's apparently directed at a 3-year-old because it says, "Oops, oh snap, something's not working and you should log into your Amazon account and make sure that, we know about this problem." Well, how can I log in when the internet's not working and I'm just getting a swirling ball? Oops, really? That's your solution. So is life getting more complicated? Absolutely. That's an unresounding yes. But more importantly, it feels like a scam. Some complicated scenario set up to get my money in any way possible through things like deceptive marketing, shady manipulation, fear of missing out. It's all borderline illegal, but it's not, right? I want to just think and let you know about something I call the can opener theory. I kind of imagine that if I were at war, I would want the simplest utility, simplest thing working possible. I just need to open this food so I can eat and get back to war. But unfortunately, there's landmines that I might step on and there's bullets whizzing past my head. So I don't want anything fancy. I want something that just works, that is reliable, and has always worked. Today, when you go online, technology has filtered into everything, and even a can opener has gotten so complicated. I actually went online when researching this, and I have here my favorite can opener. This can opener has worked for a long time, and it still works. And actually, this does several things. Not only does it open cans, but it opens bottles, and it'll even puncture a hole in a can if you need to pour something out. When researching, I found out that, believe it or not, you can go all the way up to a $20,000 can opener today. I know, sounds ridiculous, but these things will do all kinds of stuff. And when I'm at war, which is like life every single day now, I just don't see a need for an all-in-one 18 different utility electric turtleneck sweater that is also solar powered. No thanks. I can do without the glow-in-the-dark rechargeable sweater. The point is that everything has become more complicated because we've filtered in so much technology that it is now a full-time job to figure out how to not only use this, but how to not get scammed. And we've added this to our lives because, why? Because we feel like we need it. You see, the companies that create this technology and sell this technology, along with people who are out there buying, have all sold us on the idea that if we use technology in every area of our lives, somehow our lives will be simpler and better. But it has actually proven time and time again that it definitely is not making it simpler. In most cases, it is unnecessary, and that in the long run, it also hasn't made it better. It's made things much more complicated. Add to that, life today comes complete with ID theft, high interest rates, unaffordable housing, overpriced cars, insurance, education, energy, food, fuel, consumer goods, hotels, and entertainment. Did I miss anything? We are paying for all of this. But don't worry, because act now and you'll also get a lifetime of debt you can't handle, planned product obsolescence, and online shopping that's going to deliver the weakest products ever known to man. How did we get here? And why are we even doing this? We have to roll back the clock a little bit and realize that we have had these points in time where we have created things, and we call these revolutions, right? We had the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, and now this digital or technological revolution. And we have used them all to a certain degree for a period of good, right? To develop things and make our lives actually, quote unquote, better. But in the process, we also sometimes take that technology too far, and we forget that just because something is progressive, just because we're using the word progress, that it's not always for the better. What happens when progress becomes just a word to disguise failure and inconvenience? But we still want progress. If we think about to the first revolution, which is known as the agricultural revolution, we're taught that there's one, but there really isn't one. There are really three. You see, 12,000 years ago is when we first decided that, hey, we should start planting stuff and maybe organizing our plants and organizing our animals, right? But it wasn't really until the 8th century, from the 8th to the 13th centuries, that we really got organized. I mean, that's when we became farmers, so to speak. We said plants here, rows of seeds here, maybe plant at a certain time of the year, depending on what you're growing, yield that harvest. Animals over here, corral them, and here's how we breed and use animals to our benefit, maybe even helping us plow the fields, right? So that was big developments for that period of time. Of course, around the 30s and 40s now, we started having things like tractors and farm machines, and we also invented pesticides. That was a great idea. We also invented fertilizers and high-yield seeds. So now it was beneficial because we could build more and we could do more and we could yield more. However, these tractors were depositing everything from coolant to fuel and oil into our soils, which has proven to be bad. Also, a lot of the pesticides and fertilizers we use are man-made and they're not natural anymore. I don't know if anyone's using any natural ones anymore, but they have also proven to deplete our soil and poison our soil. It's caused a lot of pollution. So we reached a point where agricultural technology was really working. It wasn't even really technology. It was just man-made skills put to work. Then when we added too much tech, all the way to the point where today we have poisoned many of our American farms. Where I grew up on the East Coast, eventually I ended up moving up to Maine and spent part of my childhood up there. And a lot of those farms that I went to are now closed because these soils are so poisoned and polluted because the powers that be in their infinite wisdom thought it would be a great idea to use wastewater from big businesses and factories to irrigate those fields. And it ended up just poisoning them with PFAS, which of course has gotten into our bloodstream. So there could be a whole nother video about that. But if you look that up, you're going to see how we're slowly poisoning ourselves. Next was the Industrial Revolution, which started in the mid 1700s, went to about the mid 1800s. And in that time, we developed things like textile manufacturing, steam engines, and iron, which we put all to work for our benefit. Amazing. Starting around the 1870s, going till about 1914, about 2 years after the Titanic went down, the inventions were steel, electricity, and mass production, meaning factories. But the problem is with these factories, we had invented something like electricity that's amazing. Many of those workers never got to even enjoy it because they were working 16 hours a day. Their children were also working in these factories, not going to school, and safety wasn't really a concern. You see, we had traded quantity for safety. Now we could make tons of things. Before it was the cobbler working, hopefully churning out a dozen pairs of boots in a week, and now we could churn out dozens of pairs every hour. So maybe the quality was going down, but the quantity was going up, and the safety was not getting any better. So this was a big problem, and we lost a lot of lives during this time. And there weren't a lot of safety, procedures in place in these factories. Of course, then there's the technological revolution. And that started in the 40s and 50s with the invention of computers, right? We had these supercomputers that could do super things. And it was in full swing by the 80s. 10 years after that, we were starting to develop the internet. And by the 2000s, it was cell phones and personal computers for everyone. The problem is, we developed a lot of great technology, but along that time, we also felt the need to put that technology and integrate it into, everything. And we think we're not making progress if we're not embedding that technology into everything. Instead of saying, hey, if something works, as basic as it might be, let's just keep going with that because it works and it works well. Instead, we generally push the limitations, and before something even works well with this newer technology, we push it out there into the world. It never really works that well, and before it can, we come up with the next piece of technology, meaning we're always behind the curve and fighting with our technology to keep up and work with how we want it in the name of progress. But I'm not so sure that I want genetically engineered foods in my system. And it actually hasn't proven that all of these genetically engineered foods, now that we have more food groups, have increased our longevity. Electric vehicles have proved to both be inefficient, costly, and overall wasteful in their production. There's a high cost to run them, a high cost to maintain them, and disposing of these batteries has also proven futile and causing more pollution into the environment than anything. Add to the fact that to make these factories, to run these factories, and to do anything involved with the creation and running of an electric vehicle and also solar, you still need fossil fuels. So we have actually created an industry to reduce fossil fuel use when it actually has created an industry by default that uses more fossil fuels. And I thought fossil fuels were the problem. The point is, all of these things haven't really always worked out like humans have planned, certainly not for the better. Add to that the fact that we have to have a personal computer, meaning a cell phone, with us at all times, 24 hours a day to now eat, drink, drive, order, check in, check out, get through security. This seems 100% contrary and counterproductive to a simpler, easier, and more cost-effective life. Of course, technology is always sold to us by the fact that it will make our lives simpler, easier, and more cost-effective. We're going to save ourselves time, so we're going to, in fact, save ourselves money. I think the general answer, if you're at least asking my opinion, is technology hasn't always helped. And certainly it actually, in many ways, has made our lives more difficult because it adds not one, not even several, but many layers of a process to go through, well, anything. I used to buy a ticket for a concert and I would just go to some ticket window and walk away with my tickets and now give them to someone to walk into the concert. And now there's, 4-step verification process and I need an email and I have to download and I have to print something out anyway and I have to prove who I am and I have to verify by sending a text back and then getting a text and getting an email and sending an email. And before you know it, the process has become so complicated that I don't even want to engage because it is making my life more difficult. One of the businesses that I do is real estate. And I was just looking at a piece of real estate not last night, right? 24 hours before shooting this video. And here I am looking at this piece of real estate and I'm already in the listing, but it really won't let me look at anything. So it says, just type in your email here and to get into the listing. So I give them my email, but that's not enough. Now they need a phone number too on the next page, but that's not enough. Then it needs to know where I live and my current address so it can do an evaluation of the value of my home. I didn't say I was selling my home. I'm not selling my home. I don't need to put in all that information. I just want to look at what this house costs and where it is and get the details on it because I'm an investor and may buy that house. But I just literally gave up. I'm not willing to give up all of my personal information. And literally I was 4 pages in and filling things out and I just said, forget it. This has become too difficult. But what is that all about? That's an effort to get as much information out of me, whether I buy that home or not, because then the data brokers have something that they can trade, something that they can sell. And that is the industry. And it just seems to me that it has become a full-time job to not get scammed and not give up all of my information to technology. Now, I'm different, right? I consider myself kind of a caveman. I like things simple. If I leave the house without my cell phone, I don't go back for my cell phone. And I know that's rare. Most people lose their cell phone for 10 minutes and forget it. They're like a fish out of water. They think they're going to die. But that's because maybe I come from a different time, or maybe I think differently, or maybe I try and enjoy the moment of life a little bit more. And I say, hey, all right, a day without my cell phone might be an easier, better day, right? Believe me, they'll still get in touch with me tomorrow, right? I'll get that cell phone when I get home. Was life really better? I mean, if we roll the clock back, if we look and we go back to the 60s, 70s, and 80s, was it even any better? Well, I was born in the early 70s, so by the late 70s, I was alive and living in the world. And I have to say that undeniably, yes, it was a massively glorious time. I mean, from the late 70s to the late 80s, we were still inventing all kinds of things and had great technologies, but they worked really well. But on top of that, we would do things like eat and go for drives and go do beach cruises and sit down with our families together for dinner and talk about our day. In other words, we lived in the moment and we were undistracted by tech. Probably hard for me to really appreciate then because I was so young and I was just living in that moment. But later, as life got harder and everything got more technical, it just seems to me that that was an outstanding time. There was also less fear. Not only were we undistracted by technology, but technology wasn't just pushing all of this fear down our throats 24 hours a day. You see, today, whether a child got abducted from a bus stop at 7 o'clock in the morning in Colorado, or whether there was an earthquake or train derailment in India, we didn't know about it 7 minutes later. So it wasn't something that we had to be worried about and start fearing and being like, oh, maybe I should wait with my child at the bus stop. Maybe we're not going to go to India on vacation like we planned. We just live in fear now. We were more social in the 70s and 80s too, because, well, you just went out and did things. You went for drives with your friends. You went out for coffee more. You went roller skating in the park. And there was nothing such as social media. That didn't exist. You just were forced to be social. And today, because of social media, it's proven that it has actually made people more hermit-like. We're afraid to interact. We're scared of each other. We think everyone is the Craigslist killer. killer and bad's gonna happen to us if we go meet someone to go buy a cell phone charger. That fear has crept into everything through social media. Also, it's just become an outlet where we don't feel good about ourselves anymore because we're just constantly comparing our lives to everybody else. What is everybody else doing, driving, eating, vacationing? Where are they going? Their lives must be better than ours, and my life doesn't look so good, so maybe I don't want to post. Maybe I begin feeling bad about myself. Believe me, there's nothing social about social media. If anything, it makes us what? Mechanical animals? Years ago, I really, enjoyed that, and I guess I'm appreciating it more now. Was life slower? People say, well, life was slow back then, but what's wrong with living life slowly to the fullest? Who wants to rush through their life? Do you really just want to get to the end and then be putting you in a box and throwing dirt over you? I mean, life is for the living. There's so much to do, and it's out there in the real world. Why not take advantage of that? Remember that new is not always better. Be in the moment. Declutter your life of all of this technology and your attachment to it. Maybe live in the real world with real people. You see, life is passing you by. It's passing you by one moment at a time. Why are you going to give it away to all of this technology that in the end makes your life actually more difficult, definitely more costly, and gives you a reason that you just have to feel like you have to compete with the rest of the world because maybe they have a piece of technology you don't, or the newest iPhone or the newest computer? As a society, my vote is to stop logging in and start waking up. My name is Daniel F. Margasa. You are watching the Almost Criminal Millionaire channel, and if you enjoy the topics of finance, money, the health and wealth of your bank account, and maybe your life, then please like and subscribe for more.